The Trump administration ramping up its military crackdown on suspected drug boats heading into the U.S. A huge escalation in this operation, the Pentagon now deploying an entire aircraft carrier strike group.
In the dead of night, the president was woken for an emergency briefing. The call wasn't about a terrorist attack or a foreign invasion. It was about a U.S. Navy destroyer in the Caribbean that had just seized a cartel fleet. The initial report was good, a record-breaking $473 million bust.
Take a listen to what the Air and Marine Operations Deputy Director had to say about this incident and what they're doing on the water.
But then came the second report, the one that was hand-delivered in a classified file. What they found hidden amongst the narcotics was a game changer, a threat so significant that it has been kept from the public. A threat that wasn't just criminal, but military. Cornering the $500 million fleet. For weeks, high-endurance Coast Guard cutters and P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance planes had been playing a frustrating game of cat and mouse. The cartels you see were no longer using simple fishing boats. Many people are crazy about the idea of smugglers and go-fast boats, but the reality was far more sophisticated. They were operating a ghost fleet. Dozens of semi-submersible vessels, custom-built fiberglass narco subs, and retrofitted commercial ships that could vanish from radar at a moment's notice. The street value of a single one of these convoys could rival the GDP of a small island nation. At the heart of the U.S. task force was the guided missile destroyer USS Cole, a name that carries the weight of history. Armed with the legendary Aegis combat system and bristling with sensors that could track a seabird from 20 miles away, the Cole was not your typical drug patrol vessel. Deploying a frontline warship was a message in itself. The thing nobody tells you is that this was a deliberate escalation. Washington was tired of playing games. On this particular night, the operators in the Cole's Combat Information Center got the hit they were waiting for. A faint, coordinated signal, a cluster of targets moving too fast and too organized to be civilian traffic. They were 200 miles off the coast of Colombia, and they were heading north. The ensuing chase was a masterclass in naval tactics. Helicopters launched from the Cole's flight deck, swooping low over the waves with infrared cameras. Coast Guard cutters moved to form a pincer, cutting off escape routes. For hours, the cartel fleet tried to scatter, using electronic countermeasures to jam U.S. communications. But it was no use. The Cole's systems were simply too advanced. One by one, the ships were cornered. Warning shots were fired across their bows. Under the blinding glare of military spotlights, heavily armed boarding teams swarmed the vessels. The final tally was staggering. The Navy and Coast Guard had seized over 26,000 pounds of illicit substances, with a street value calculated at an eye-watering 4 million pounds, $173 million. 34 cartel operatives were taken into custody without a single shot being fired in anger. It was, to put it mildly, a historic victory. The news headlines were already being written, but here's where the story takes a sharp turn into the shadows. As the boarding teams cleared the final and largest vessel, a disguised cargo ship that served as the convoy's command center, they found something that didn't belong. Tucked away behind a false wall in the engine room, past the bales of contraband, was a small soundproof chamber. It wasn't for hiding drugs. It was a state-of-the-art communications suite, humming with equipment that looked suspiciously military-grade. And on a computer screen that the crew hadn't wiped in time, sailors found encrypted schematics. They weren't blueprints for another narco sub, they were for something much, much bigger. What many overlooked in the initial celebration was that this $473 million fleet was just the bait. The real prize was still out there, hidden beneath the waves. The captain of the USS Cole immediately sealed the room and sent a flash message to the Pentagon. The official story was a massive success, but the secret in that room pointed to an even bigger threat. Secrets of the command ship. The atmosphere aboard the USS Cole shifted from celebration to tense suspicion. The 34 captured crew members were not the desperate, low-level smugglers the sailors were used to. These men were disciplined. They were fit, spoke multiple languages, and showed signs of professional training. To put it mildly, they acted less like criminals and more like Special Forces soldiers who had been captured. They refused to speak, their faces stoic and unreadable. This was the first red flag. The second was the equipment found scattered across the command ship. They discovered night vision goggles of a foreign military design, encrypted radios far more advanced than anything seen before, and even compact drone launchers. This wasn't a smuggling operation, it was a paramilitary force. Deep in the ship's hold, forensics teams analyzed the schematics found on the computer. The blueprints depicted a diesel-electric attack submarine. Not a clumsy homemade narco sub, but a modern military-grade vessel with torpedo tubes and an air-independent propulsion system, allowing it to stay submerged for weeks at a time. A submarine like that could cost upwards of $300 million on the black market. The idea of a cartel owning such a weapon was unthinkable. It changed the entire equation. You see, a vessel like that could not only move massive amounts of contraband with near-perfect stealth, but it could also threaten U.S. naval assets, disrupt commercial shipping lanes, and even launch a clandestine attack on the homeland. The discovery sent a jolt of alarm through the highest levels of the U.S. government. The thing nobody tells you is how quickly the mission's objective changed. This was no longer a counter-narcotics operation, it was now a national security emergency. An immediate and total media blackout was imposed. The official story remained focused on the $473 million drug bust, a convenient and impressive headline to distract from the terrifying truth. Meanwhile, the P-8 Poseidon aircraft, originally searching for surface vessels, were retasked. Their operators deployed magnetic anomaly detectors, or MAD booms, designed to pick up the metallic signature of a submarine hiding deep underwater. The Caribbean Sea became a massive high-tech hunting ground. The U.S. Navy wasn't just seizing a cartel's assets anymore, they were hunting a rogue war machine. Aboard the captured command ship, analysts made another chilling discovery. They found navigational charts marked with routes leading not to the United States, but to a secluded bay in West Africa and another destination in the Mediterranean. They also found evidence of massive multi-million-dollar wire transfers originating from a shell corporation linked to a known U.S. adversary. The pieces were beginning to fit together, and the picture they formed was horrifying. This wasn't a simple partnership of convenience. It looked like a state-sponsored fusion of a criminal enterprise and a foreign intelligence agency. The cartel was providing the logistics and plausible deniability, while a hostile nation was providing the military hardware and training. The Ghost Fleet was just a delivery service for something far more sinister. The Navy realized the surface fleet was a distraction, and the real monster was still lurking below. A submarine unlike any other. The hunt was on. For 48 agonizing hours, the U.S. Navy's anti-submarine warfare unit scoured a patch of ocean the size of West Virginia. The rogue submarine was a ghost. It ran silent and deep, using thermal layers in the water to mask its acoustic signature. But the thing nobody tells you is that the U.S. Navy has been the undisputed master of undersea warfare for over 70 years. It was only a matter of time. A P-8 Poseidon, flying a low-altitude search pattern, finally got a faint magnetic distortion. It was there for a second, then gone. But it was enough. The USS Cole and several other destroyers converged on the location, flooding the water with active sonar pings. They were knocking on the submarine's hull with sound waves, an aggressive move designed to force it to the surface. Deep below, the commander of the mystery submarine was faced with an impossible choice: surface and surrender, or be depth-charged into oblivion. The pressure was immense. Finally, after a tense standoff that lasted for what felt like an eternity, the dark shape began to rise. It broke the surface with a surge of white water, a sleek black monster emerging from the deep. Sailors on the deck of the USS Cole stared in stunned silence. This was no rust bucket vessel. It was a state-of-the-art Kilo-class submarine, a formidable weapon known for its quietness and powerful armament. A weapon that was supposed to be in the arsenal of a major world navy, not a criminal cartel. What many overlooked was the complete absence of any national markings. It flew no flag. It was a true pirate submarine, a deniable asset of unimaginable power. The moment the submarine was identified, a wave of classification orders came down from the very highest levels of the Pentagon. The operation was now designated a Special Access Program, its details known only to a handful of officials. The official naval logs for the USS Cole would be altered. The public would never know. The boarding of the submarine was an operation of extreme caution carried out by a Navy SEAL team. What they found inside was even more shocking than the vessel itself. The crew was not Latin American. They were a mix of Eastern European and East Asian men, all speaking a language that was immediately identified by intelligence officers. They were mercenaries, but with the training and discipline of a state military. But the true classified discovery was not the crew. In the submarine's torpedo room, the SEALs found that only 2 of the tubes were loaded with actual torpedoes. The other 4 contained something else entirely. They were specialized, long-range submersible drones. These weren't for reconnaissance. According to the mission plans found in the control room, these drones were designed to be launched from offshore and navigate autonomously up rivers and into major U.S. ports, like Houston or New Orleans. And their payload was not conventional explosives. Each drone was designed to carry a small, shielded container. The contents of those containers remain the most tightly guarded secret of the entire operation. It was a new form of asymmetric warfare, using a cartel as a proxy to position a catastrophic threat right on America's doorstep. The submarine was a shocking discovery, but its cargo revealed a truly terrifying new kind of threat: America's hidden enemy. The discovery of the submarine and its drone cargo triggered a silent crisis in Washington. The $473 million drug bust was now a footnote to a much larger, more terrifying reality. The evidence pointed to an unthinkable alliance. A major global rival, a nation with advanced military technology and a known animosity towards the United States, was actively using a powerful cartel as a proxy force. You see, this was a brilliant and deniable strategy. The rival nation could move military assets, gather intelligence, and position strategic threats against the U.S. under the cover of criminal activity. If a narco sub was caught, the world would blame the cartel, not the state that supplied it. This changed everything. The war on drugs, to put it mildly, was now inseparable from national defense. The southern border, the Caribbean Sea, and the Pacific shipping lanes were no longer just routes for smugglers. They were potential fronts in a new kind of Cold War. The thing nobody tells you is that this threat is incredibly difficult to fight. How do you retaliate against a sovereign nation for the actions of a criminal organization, even if you know they are connected? Any overt military action could risk a global conflict. The U.S. was caught in a strategic trap. The cartel, empowered with state-level technology and funding, had become more than just a criminal problem. It had become an undeclared military threat operating in the shadows. What many overlooked were the broader implications. This single event explained so much: the sudden increase in the sophistication of cartel operations, their ability to acquire military-grade weaponry, and their seemingly limitless cash flow. They weren't just being funded by narcotics anymore. They were being bankrolled by a foreign power as part of a grand strategy to undermine American influence and security. The cartels had essentially become a non-state army, a proxy force waging a covert war against the United States. The seizure of the Kilo-class submarine wasn't just a victory, it was the moment the U.S. government fully understood the nature of the 21st century battlefield. The fate of the submarine and its crew remains highly classified. It was likely taken to a secure naval base, its technology reverse-engineered, and its crew interrogated by intelligence agencies far from public view. Operation Pacific Viper was quietly expanded. Its mission now focused on hunting for more signs of state-sponsored cartel activity. The USS Cole and its fellow destroyers are no longer just looking for drugs. They are looking for the telltale signs of foreign military hardware, listening for encrypted communications that don't match known cartel patterns, and treating every suspicious vessel as a potential military threat. The line between law enforcement and warfare has been erased. The enemy is no longer just a gangster, it's a ghost, backed by a superpower. The discovery of this ghost submarine proves the game has changed. But if criminal cartels are now acting as proxies for hostile nations, is fighting them with patrol boats enough? What do you think is the only real solution to this threat? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more reports from the front lines.